All right, here's the deal. It is about 8:30 on Sunday night. Just got back from the volleyball tournament and we won the tournament, so that's pretty awesome for my daughter. So it's gonna take some late nights to get this thing done. I think what I'm gonna do is tonight, stay out here as late as I can. Obviously, the 37 is going on to the S10 chassis. What I'm gonna do first, for the first section of the video, is I'm just gonna trim away everything on the S10. I know that I've decided to get rid of the entire floor pan of this. I'm gonna chop as much of the firewall as I possibly can to get rid of everything up here that's extraneous, so that the narrow part of the Master Deluxe will fit into that firewall. I know I'm gonna have to rebuild portions of it, but I think it's just a lot easier than trying to work with the floor that's in here. I don't have a nice straight edge to weld to. I'm already going to be welding in new rockers and sills for that. So basically the entire floor is going to be custom, and I'm going to make that myself. So what I'm going to do this week is, for tonight, I'm going to put as much time as I can in to get rid of this crap, and then sometime midweek, I already contacted my guy that I get my steel from. I'm going to get some square tubing, enough to make the floor, enough to make the sills, and then what we will do is, once this is narrow enough, I will just lower this onto this with the ride height that I want the body at. Well, not the ride height. Well, basically when I've got the airbags aired out and I'm on the ground, that's where I'm going to set the body, so that, you know, ride height's going to be about 4 inches or so. When the body's laid out on the ground, I want it to be as low as possible. So I will put some 2x4s or wood or something underneath the sills of this, so I can set it on the ground so I know where it will be. And then I will basically, once the sills are in, that'll determine my floor height, and I can build the floor straight to the sill so that it will be one piece. I have some generic bushings that I can use as body mounts. And, you know, for now, basically, the first section of the video is going to be delete, basically. Get rid of everything extraneous, just so we've got basically as bare a chassis as I can get on the S10. So, that's where I'm going to start it. Let's get after it. Well, all right, so here we are on the floor with the S10. I got everything loose, and I've been looking at it, and I was considering trying to leave the steering column in here for some reason. I don't know, the brake booster's connected, steering column's in there. If I could just leave a little bit of metal right there, that would it made me think, hey, this wouldn't be as bad. Then, you know, when I can get my floor in here, I would weld it to that thing. But I realized if I take the bottom of the floor pan out over here and there's nothing underneath it, there's nothing supporting the steering column anyway. So why am I bothering not taking it out? Most of it I was just procrastinating. As usual, I didn't want to freaking deal with it. But there's only 4 bolts holding the brake booster in. I might as well just get the steering column out, disconnect the pedals. Yeah, I'm creating more work for myself to fabricate a firewall and mounting places for those things. But for the time being, just to get this chassis cleaned up so I can get this floor pan off, so I got a fresh place to start with, this is going. So the interwebs have helped. There's a little bolt that's kind of under here. I already took well, you can tell that's disconnected already, but there's a little collar here on the column with a nut and bolt through it. My understanding is I take that out and that goes out that way. Then I can get the brake booster disconnected. And, you know, when I've got that done, I disconnect the shifter cable, and then this floor pan is gone. And then we can start knocking off some things on the chassis so that I can build my floor for that thing, and then that can sit down on this. So, yep, I'm gonna take the steering column out. That's the plan for now. Well, we are officially in it now. Good riddance to that. I think this is going to be a lot better for me. Just a clean slate so that we can build a floor to match that. Since I got to build the sills, got to do the floor. This is going to be a better way to do it. I would have been giving myself a headache to try and keep that and to make anything out of it. So I think the first thing, of course, that we need to do is clean up in here a little bit, and then let's just roll it under there. And then let's take this and put it down and, you know, see how close we get. Because it kind of sounds awesome right now. I mean, it's approaching 10 o'clock, so, I mean, I'm excited. Let's do it. Well, here's our Frankenstein. So we are dang close. There's just a couple spots that are gonna be tight, but we knew that. So the wheelbase needs to go back. Let me get around the left here. Wheelbase needs to go back 4 inches. So if I bring that back 4 inches there, that allows me to get the trunk. You can see where the trunk is over that center section where they have that really high notch. So I will have to do a couple things. First off, we know that I'm going to have to extend the wheelbase a little bit. But overall, this thing fits in here pretty good. I think I'm very pleased with what we've got so far. Up there, tons of room for that to go down and get down onto the chassis. I really don't think we're gonna have to channel it too much to really set it on the frame up there. So that's gonna be pretty cool. These body mounts in the back here, those will probably work for the floor underneath the rear seats. So it's coming along. I mean, this is the first real attempt without the floor in it to kind of set it there. So it's gonna be pretty dang cool, I think. Once that body is set down all the way on the ground, it's gonna be pretty killer. So I don't know that there's much more that I can do tonight, given you know, my lack of metal to work on the rockers. I've got everything cut out of there that I possibly can. There's probably a lot more wiring to delete and things like that. But in any case, here's where we are. It's not a bad couple hours, I don't think, for Sunday evening. Got it fairly centered on the engine there. The body's gonna have to come forward. Body's gonna have to come forward some, but you saw me put the fender on over there, probably. That was just to kind of line up where that fender mounts to the body over there. And as long as I get the front wheel wells okay, again, with radiator delete up here, delete frame up here, the fender's gonna end basically right where those frame rails are up front. It gets a little bit narrow in the body of the Master, right here where it's gonna be on the frame, but I don't think that's anything that's gonna, well, given everything else that I have to do to this vehicle, that ain't so bad. Also, just want to remind you, you know, why we're putting new sills and an entire new floor in this thing, because of that basic structure. All right, so, well, there's my Sunday evening update. Hope everybody is having a good week. It's a fairly okay start for me, I think. We'll get back after it another night. All right, well, it's the next night, and I've been sitting here for about 15 minutes, just kind of contemplating things moving forward. So we've got a couple of things to consider. You know, I'm not 100% sure that the S10 was the best way to go here, but we're gonna have to work with it for the time being. With the floor pan gone, there's a lot more room. I can see where the body for the Master is gonna have to drop onto this. Where they had done the C notch back here, I'm gonna have to bring you down there to show you kind of what's going on. I am gonna probably have to change this here You know, I had planned on doing that when I needed to lengthen the wheelbase by about 4 inches. But in any case, there's a lot of things to adjust up on the frame up there. I'm gonna have to fiddle around to make the body fit onto this a whole lot better. So first things first, because I don't really have, I don't have the metal to do the rockers yet. I'm gonna work tonight, since I have a little bit of time, I'm gonna work on cutting this stuff apart, dismantling the rear of this so I can take some measurements so that I can, you know, lengthen the wheelbase. There's some ugly welds in here. It's not entirely welded to the frame, so I think that needs to change anyways. So again, good thing I'm taking these things apart, but it does leave a lot more work for me to do. So I'm going to turn the camera around, get you in here, kind of point some things out that obviously need to change, and we'll go from there. So I'll bring you in here. Come take a look. All right, I'm going to bring you into the rear axle here so we can kind of point at some things and a little show and tell. So don't worry about this rest here. This is just from when I started it up. There was a little bit of water in the exhaust and it sprayed all over the place back here. But some things I want you to check out is when they did the C-notch, well, you can look over here. You can see lots of booger welds up there. Not sure I'm entirely confident in all of that. But also what you might see is if you look down here, there's a gap there that's not connected to the frame. Same thing on this side. There's a gap there, that's not welded. They just notched this out here, right angle. So I'll need to fix that. More booger welds here. So what you're looking at right now is the passenger side. Then they have this brace coming across the middle, which I think is fine, but let me grab my light here. So we're just gonna look at the outside of the frame rail here. They didn't do a fish plate or anything. You know, again, some big boogers in there. They got this thing stuck on there, but I think what I would rather do is cut all this off. I'll put a fish plate across here and probably on the outside of the entire thing. But my plan is going to still remain the same, which is to get my 4 inches of additional wheelbase. What I'm going to do is I will take a measurement from this cross member here to, let's just say, this area on the pumpkin. And I know where it is now. When I make these pieces here, I will lengthen it to the point that this is 4 inches further away. And then that'll tell me that I've got the wheelbase right to fit under that. So that's how I'm going to achieve the wheelbase that I need. In the meantime, I'm going to get my grinder out. These are the air lines for the airbags. I'm gonna take those out just so they're out of the way and kind of clean things up here a little bit. First thing I will do is probably clean up the welds there so that I can cut all of this out from the outside. So that's gonna be tonight's project. Why don't you stick around and watch me struggle some more and, you know, laugh at me in the background, because that's what I would be doing while watching me do this moronic stunt here. So I'll get after it. You can enjoy the show. I just gotta say how amazing it is that you can just find things to waste time on, like getting a friggin' wheel off of a drum when it's rusted on there. So that was another 15 minutes of just messing around doing, you know, something that should be pretty routine. So I guess what I'm gonna do now is try grinding off some of these grinding off some of these welds here and see if we can free up that cross member there. That's where we're at. All right, well, here's the deal. After hitting that with the wire wheel for a couple minutes, there is an amazing amount of weld on that. And, you know, I could cut the whole thing off and redo that, but what I think I might do actually is I'll just fish plate over that. I will put my horizontal piece in there to gain my 4 inches, and I'll fish plate all the corners. Anywhere that, you know, I feel like it might need to be filled in a little bit, I might grind that and put some fresh weld in. But honestly, it does look pretty solid the way it is. So I think it'll do, and it'll save a little bit of work for me. So I'm going to work on cleaning some of this up in preparation for cutting this part off so I can add metal in between. So I'm gonna keep working at this stuff, and you know, hopefully eventually we'll get a wheelbase that works with the master. All right, well, here's the funny thing about making videos when I'm doing this, because there's a lot of time that I just sit here scratching my head or sitting down and being frustrated and looking at this stuff. But here's ultimately what I decided. I'm going to clean all that up, and I'm gonna weld over the top of that. I'll put a fish plate on that. I'm going to, I measured a level line from there to there. I'm gonna do a 45-degree angle cut on both sides. That distance from there to there is 12 inches now. I'm gonna increase that to 16 inches. Then I will have my 45, I'll weld in that, and I will fish plate everywhere just to secure this, because that is, honestly, that is really, really welded in there. There are some spots that I think I will repair. And then what I'm gonna do on the back side is I'm just going to box this in. So I'm going to, when I'm all said and done grinding all this off, there will be a plate, probably 1/8 inch plate along there from top to bottom on that rail, all the way to there, and then up onto that on the back side. So that'll be welded in on all sides there. Same thing on the back, and that's the way I'm gonna do it. It is, you know, it's already 10 o'clock here. I've been goofing off, well, not really goofing off, just mental hurdles, trying to get over this, kind of overwhelmed tonight. I'm just kind of looking at parts and pieces laying all over the place. Got that thing up there. You know, I don't know, I'm just kind of tired, and things are getting to me right at the moment. So what I might do tonight, just so I feel like I have accomplished one thing, is I will try and start these 45-degree angle cuts here. I just used my speed square and made those, measure them out so they're equal on both sides, on driver side and passenger side. And I'm gonna try and at least, you know, scribe the line with the grinder. I might cut one side with the grinder and then just take the Sawzall blade through that as a reference to get through the backside over there, because, you know, this is in the way. So that's, I think, at least what I'm gonna do right now. And then we shall see where the pieces fall after that. And, you know, just make it up as you go, I guess. Seemed like a good idea at the time. Well, if you want a lesson on how to fuck absolutely everything up, here you go. Take the body off the running chassis you have so you can replace it with something. Then you cut that something apart and you're left with a whole pile of, well, nothing. So, well, you heard the plan. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a piece for there and there. We'll make them both 16 inches because the horizontal piece there previously was 12 inches, and that will take the axle 4 inches. And, you know, what we're hoping is then that will make the wheels line up in the master so that when we put the body back down, we get the rear wheel to sit nicely where it was before. And the front wheels, well, I don't know. All right, so here's where we're leaving it. It is now, we're probably 10:30-ish. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clean up for tonight. I think that it does help me take a couple minutes at the end of the night just to kind of get the crap off the floor, organize a little bit, go inside. I'm gonna have a drink of something. I'm pretty thirsty. And then I will come back at this some other day when my brain is a little bit reset. So these videos, it's kind of funny. They're chopped up into lots of little bits for anybody who's watching them. You don't realize how many hours and how many days are actually in the background of making a mess out of things. So today's Monday. I'll get back to you some other day this week, and hopefully that will include putting that back together right there. So, oh, the other thing is, of course, I took this out while no one was looking. Disconnected the drive shaft. I'm also gonna probably have to take that to a drive shaft shop. Holy buckets. So that we can have another 4 inches put into that to make up the difference for what I'm gonna do back here. But I'll do that after I have welded this in so I can be sure that I'm accurate and I don't get a drive shaft that doesn't fit for no reason at all. So, happy Monday. We'll see you later. All right, so here's the deal. I was pretty frustrated the past couple of nights. I actually have another evening. It's not too late, starting at 7 o'clock, so that's awesome. There's a little bit of daylight out there. Anyways, a little bit refreshed, feel better about things. Well, I mean, this is still a mess over here. I'm gonna cut these pieces for the cross members that I had chopped out before so that we can extend the wheelbase. I'm gonna make it my goal tonight to at least get these pieces cut so that I can kind of tack them in there maybe, make sure everything lines up. I had tried to put the doors back on. The passenger front door doesn't fit at all. It's drooped about, I don't know, I'd say 3/4 of an inch almost. So that's gonna be a problem that's gonna be figured out. For right now though, what I'm gonna try and bust through is cut my 45s here, moving the axle back, see if we can get that kind of lined up, and at least a couple tacks in there to hold things in place. So I'm gonna get after it and we'll see how things progress tonight. All right, so what I did with there was I just cut my 45s on this. This is a little bit thicker than what's on the truck right now. This is 3/16 wall, 2x3 tubing. So right now, I'm gonna take my measurement from here to here so that I can get the distance between these two the same. So when I set them on there, I make sure that I'm putting this back on square. I'm gonna take this out of here. I'm probably gonna use my own a smaller square tube just to keep the distance, the width accurate, not necessarily for structural purposes, because there's a cross member about 6 inches in front of that. There's a big cross member on the back of the frame here. So I'm just gonna use that for the distance in between of these two notches for the axle drop here. So what I did before is I obviously cut my 45s and then I ground off a bevel so I have a place for my weld bead to sit in there. So what I'm gonna measure now is this distance here. I'm gonna chop some of the smaller square tubing so I can replicate this distance. So I'm gonna take it back over there. I make sure these pieces are square, put it on the frame, and then I will tack this thing back into the S10 chassis. So that's the next step. So we've got maybe 2 spots. Got 35 3/4, 35 3/4. So that's what I'm gonna make my width on smaller pieces of tube, and then I'll put that back in the chassis. All right, here is my setup for doing the cross member. What I'm gonna do here, obviously I ground off my taper there. That's gonna match up to what's on the frame. I dropped a line straight down from that with my speed square. I got these corners all at 90s. I used my metal square there to make sure that we're good. Temporarily holding everything in place. I'm going to tack this together. Once this is tacked together, we're going to bring it over here and we're going to try and put it on there. So right now we're going to tack up the temporary cross members, see how lucky we get, and if I actually know how to use a tape measure. All right, so I've got that. I basically just tacked the corners of that. I didn't want to go crazy and just burn the whole thing in because I got this on jack stands. I'm going to pull it back. I'm sure that's going to suck, kind of trying to jiggle it around, move it back. And then I'm just going to bring it over. I'm going to measure my 16. When I get it over there, I'm going to kind of just see how it fits. And then as long as it looks kind of halfway decent, I will bring it back over here and I will finish welding in the corners of this thing. So I got the cross members there. And then when that's finally welded all the way, then I will bring it over here. Clearly I got to do some prep work on this to clean up the corners of the frame rails that are on there before we, stick it in for sure. So let's pull this back, get that in its place. Okay, well, a little back and forth. What I found out is that my width on my new cross member is absolutely perfect. As far as the length from point A to point B, I'm a little bit short for my wheelbase, about a ½ inch, but I think I'm gonna live with that. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna clean up these areas on the frame, and then I will bring this thing over, and I did finish welding this in. So, I guess I'm self-taught. I'm gonna be, quite honest with you that, I'm not an expert welder or fabricator. I'm just doing this as a hobby. So grade me if you like, but I'm pretty satisfied. I think I got pretty decent welds in the corner there. That's just after a little bit of wire brush. So good enough for me, I believe. Putting it on the table here, there's no weeble wobble. Can't say that this table's 100% flat, but it's pretty darn close. So I think that will be satisfactory to bring over here and stick in that place. So what I'm going to do is spend some time cleaning up the frame rails here. I will probably put a pretty good tack on the top corner here and the top corner there. Strong enough to hold it in place, but loose enough that if I need to jiggle this side and bring it in, bring it out, up, down, that kind of thing, I can do it with my floor jack. It's just resting on those jack stands now. So total amount of fiddle factor there. I've used that term before, but what I'm gonna have, hopefully when I'm done, is a chassis put back together that I can throw the wheels on and roll it back under that thing. As you can see, as I said before, I did put the doors back on, and I think that'll really give us a clue of what it looks like when this chassis is under there. And I also got my metal to make the sills for the body. So I don't know when I'm gonna get to that, but I'm gonna keep rolling tonight. I think my final goal will be to have cross member tacked into this so that, I kind of feel like I've got mission accomplished for tonight. So I'm gonna clean up the frame rails now and continue work. All right, well, sorry, sometimes I get a little bit manic and I just start working and I got a thing in my head and I just got to do it, and then I forget about the camera thing. So I will show you kind of where I left things right at the moment. I'm going to turn the camera around here so you can kind of see what I got going on. So, all right, so I have my front notch, whatever you want to call that, there tacked in. So what I did was I made sure we're pretty close to level here. So this is just sitting on the body mounts here on the frame that's in front of the notch. Then I put that on there. So we're at 0.1 and 0.1. So that's pretty darn good from side to side. Then what I did was I was having trouble without basically having 3 hands. So I got just a couple goobers holding it there and there. That will be filled in. It was off by like 1/8 of an inch. So I just put this pipe clamp from side to side. I also didn't have another hand to hold. So I just took a piece of angle iron and I just put it under there temporarily to hold my 90. So it would hold up the cross member there. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to line up the back here and I'm gonna tack that in as well. So sorry you missed some action there, but like I said, I just kind of got in the mode of, I just really wanna get this done and didn't bother with the camera. So sorry about that. I will finish doing this here on the back and update you when complete. All right, well, here's where I'm leaving it. Again, I just got into a mode where I just needed to get that done. So I will show you when that's all welded in, but basically where it stands right at the moment, that cross member is in, lengthened the wheelbase 3.5 inches. I needed 4, so close enough. I guess I could have cut more steel and I could have, I don't know, chalk that up to amateur hour. And what I'm gonna need to do is get some more welding gas because I'm out of that. When I did the last tacks over on that side, they look pretty ugly. But for the most part, we are where we need to be as far as wheelbase is concerned by adding that. I am really gonna need to add some reinforcement to that. I don't want a 45 there with nothing else. So basically what's gonna happen is I'll probably put a gusset on the front end of that and fish plates all around the whole thing, just because, you know, I'd like the rear end to stay under the vehicle. So for now, it is late, you know, after 10 again, as per our usual arrangement. So what I'm gonna do is clean up, and the last thing I'm probably gonna get to do for this video for this week is finish welding that stuff in. Once that's welded in, I'm calling it good. And then what I'm gonna do is we will pull it forward, see if we can kind of line it up under that and see what it looks like. And then as long as it's okay, I'm gonna put the sills in on the master. So, you know, one step at a time. I will come back out here after it's cleaned up another day, probably Friday, Saturday is when I'll get to this. Hopefully, you know, post a video over the weekend and keep you updated on the Master Deluxe RatRod. One more night down. All right, even though it is raining out, I had to get this thing out. I was too excited once I dropped the body on there. I think it looks awesome. I was very frustrated this week, but actually where it sets right now, this is just the first time it was ever put on the chassis. I think it looks awesome. I can bring the rear down just a touch. It's sitting on the 4-link. I can cut the back of the trunk out a little bit and that rear end will drop a little bit, but I don't know, that rake on it kind of looks pretty cool. Front fender doesn't quite fit perfectly because it's running into the frame rail up here. So much more work to do, but I just had to get it outside just to kind of get a look at it. I think it's going to look wicked when it's done. I want to get a running board on there that'll eliminate the frame that you can see there. Super cool. All right, well, I'm going to wrap it up here. We'll get back to after it next week, but I just absolutely wanted to show off the car because I'm too excited about it right at the moment. So thanks for watching. Hoping everybody's enjoying it.